Welcome back to another episode of the Outdoor Adventures podcast here on Brownfield. I'm Brent Barnett. This week's show is a content partnership with the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services. Joining us on the show today is Deb Hudman, Wildlife Health Program Supervisor with the Missouri Department of Conservation. Deb, thanks for joining us. How are you doing here today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks so much for being here. The topic for this episode is tick prevention while enjoying the outdoors. And, really, Deb, before we dive in, could you tell the listeners more about yourself and some of the work that you do with MDC?
Well, sure. So I'm relatively recent to MDC. Prior to that, I worked at A.T. Still University in the microbiology and immunology department. And I was doing actually tick-borne disease research for a number of years. So I have extensive history looking at studying ticks, and both in Missouri, but also in California and New York, and just sort of all over. But my current position, I oversee the wildlife health program for the state of Missouri, and of course, and part of that is related with ticks as they spread in disease not only to humans but also in wildlife. And so I still get to dabble in that, but it's also much more extensive.
Aside from your work with some of the tick research and things, do you get outdoors yourself? Do you enjoy any outdoor activities?
Yeah, I love being outside. It's great for you. I definitely enjoy hiking and walking and bird watching and all of it, and fishing and a variety of activities. Unfortunately, with my position, I'm kind of chained at the desk, I would say. But every opportunity I get, I definitely try to get outside.
Hey, I'm right there with you. We try to get outside as much as we can. We have 3 littles here at home, under 6, and so they're really big into fishing right now. So
Excellent.
anytime we can, we're located up in central Iowa myself, and we have a public lake that's pretty close by, and I feel like we spend most of our summer afternoons at the lake trying to catch some fish, and the kids have gotten really good. They're beating me now on pan fishing. They love catching those little bluegills, on just a small little hook, and they're getting pretty good at it. They're showing me up out there.
So you're not dodging hooks constantly?
We definitely dealt with a lot of the tangling for a while, but they've definitely they've gotten really good at casting, and they're pretty independent now. It's
That's great.
pretty cool to watch them get better at casting and trying to learn about tying on lures now. So it's just great.
Yeah.
Nice to pass that along to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as we talk about getting outdoors, this is definitely a time of the year where we're seeing more outdoor activity, people enjoying the outdoors. You mentioned hiking, fishing, hunting seasons. I know like spring turkey season will be opening up here soon. Definitely a lot of opportunities. And with that, unfortunately, come those pests, those ticks. I myself have been bitten by ticks, and you come home from a hunt or you go fishing, and darn it, there's one stuck in me or crawling on me. I know a lot of people have had that happen as well. So what are kind of the things people should know about ticks as they head out into the woods or just out into the outdoors?
Well, I would say some good knowledge about ticks is that you can definitely have lots of tick-borne diseases in Missouri and Iowa. There are certainly 4 species of ticks that tend to bite humans much more readily than other species of ticks. And in order of prevalence, it's the Lone Star tick. So that's the female has that white dot in the back, but the males do not. They have different ornamentation. And then there's the American dog tick and the black-legged tick or the deer tick, and then the Gulf Coast tick. And that's sort of in the southern half of the state of Missouri, at least. Although there's been some reports of it north, but primarily you can find them south of the Missouri River. So in combination with those 4 species ticks, they can transmit up to 12 different human pathogens. They have to be attached for different amounts of times to actually transmit a disease. So what I recommend to folks, if you find one attached, meaning its head is actually under the skin, and you don't know how long it's been there, my suggestion is to remove that tick, put it on some Scotch tape. I'm old school. I still have a calendar up on my wall. But what I do is the day I find it, I stick it on the date on that calendar. And if I don't have any symptoms And the symptoms you're looking for are flu-like symptoms. So they're very generalized. But if you're not achy, you don't have any fever, you're not feeling really tired or groggy, then after a couple weeks, you can just throw that tick away and don't think about it. But if you do develop some of those symptoms, you want to think about that tick and then go see your doctor, because different ticks transmit different diseases. So it's helpful to know what tick species they're dealing with.
How serious could a virus or disease be passed on? I guess what kind of impacts could we see?
Yeah, so again, very dependent on the age of the person. So if you're immunocompromised or immunosuppressed, so if you're taking some kind of medications that suppress your immune system, then these bacteria. So there's the bacterial diseases and then there are the viral diseases. Now the viral diseases they tend to be a lot more scarier. I have to say, thankfully we don't see them as often. They're much more rare. But the bacterial diseases, it really sort of depends, like the very young or the elderly or the immunocompromised or suppressed. Then in some of these, like ehrlichiosis, can be life-threatening. But for those that are in good health and not young or older, then they tend to be a mild disease. The good news is for those bacterial diseases, a 10-day course of doxycycline takes care. They don't even have to get the diagnosis right. So for all the bacteria, it's all treated with doxycycline. So it's pretty straightforward. That helps 99% of the folks. But of course, the viral diseases you can't give medication, so these antibiotics are not going to be effective for a virus.
I'll tell you, some of the times I've had ticks crawling on me, or sometimes I can even feel them. Other times not. You just discover them, and there are times, Deb, like you look at them, oh my gosh, that's a really big tick. And there's other
Yep.
times you barely look down, you almost need a magnifying glass. They're just so itty bitty tiny. It's just crazy.
That's good. There's different life stages of the tick. So most of the human biting ticks that I spoke of before, the Lone Star, the dog, the black-legged tick, all of that, they have different life stages, all of them. So and they require a blood meal in order to get to that next life stage. So the female, let's talk about the Lone Star tick because that's the
Okay.
most prevalent tick, and the female will lay around 2,500 eggs, and those eggs are in a mass clumping, and then the female secretes this substance around those eggs that prevent it from desiccating from heat, and then it also kind of acts as an antimicrobial, so like fungal, like they won't rot basically. When those hatch, the Lone Star larvae remain clumped together. They're called like pack feeders, so they stay in a clump. So the larvae, which we tend to come in contact with in late summer, early fall. So that's sort of like, it can be as early as July, but typically it's more like August, September. Those are what people often refer to as the seed ticks because they're about the size of a grass seed. But when you run into those, you don't get one or two on you, you get hundreds or thousands because again, they're little pack feeders. And then once they get a blood meal, if they can feed to repletion, they'll drop off into the leaf litter or wherever they are. Basically, they'll drop off, they'll molt, and then to the next life stage, which is the nymph. So you can think of the nymph as like the teenager of the ticks, and the nymphs now have 8 legs, but you can't tell male from female at that point. And because they're smaller than the adults, but they're bigger than the larvae, they're still pretty hard to detect. But if they take a blood meal, they'll feed to repletion, drop off, and then molt into an adult. And then one more blood meal is needed as adults in order for them to reproduce. So with each life stage, they get larger. So this time of year, you tend to run in much more frequently into the adults. So they'll be larger and more visible. A little later in the year, you'll start seeing adults, but more so nymphs. And then later in the summer and early fall, that's when you start running into those little guys, the little babies, the larvae. And they have 6 legs each, but they're so hard to see that I doubt anyone's counting their legs.
Obviously, I really enjoy being outdoors, especially in the summer and early fall. But people think I'm crazy when I tell them I almost prefer to do my hunting in the winter because I don't have to deal with the dang ticks. Uh, so that makes
They're
it.
around in winter though too.
Yeah, maybe that's a misconception on my end. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay, but it's like they tend to be on wildlife much more at that point, right?
Okay.
So if you're a
Yeah.
deer hunter, like you're going to see ticks on your deer, right? So they when you hang your deer, a lot of times once the deer gets cold, they start dropping off. So people can run into it. And again, even with the seasonality, different species are more prevalent different times of year. So that's when you tend to see those black-legged or deer ticks much more is
Oh,
like in
okay.
November time. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you'll also see another species of tick. It's called the winter tick on your deer, and they don't tend to bite humans as often, which is good. But yeah, there's a lot of different species. The four I listed are the ones that are really happy to bite us.
Oh, wow. Well, if anybody has questions about ticks in Missouri, I know just looking at some information here, Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services has a Missouri tick-borne disease story map that was developed in collaboration with the Missouri Environmental Public Health Tracking Program and the Information Technology Services Division's Office of Geospatial Information with funding through the Missouri Environmental Health Capacity Grant. You can find that online. You can find all about information about the tick-borne diseases, signs and symptoms, prevention. And on that topic, Deb, prevention, that's a
Yeah.
big part of this. What would be some tips or information you would pass along to listeners on this program here?
I would definitely say if you're walking through forest or taller shrubby material, get in the habit of just checking yourself routinely. Because, I mean, obviously you want to remove them before they bite you. So if they're just crawling, a real easy way is if you have a little bit of duct tape wrapped around, like you can just remove them quickly that way. Um, I as someone who's collected a lot of ticks, I know it doesn't, you can travel 20 meters in the right habitat and there's hundreds of ticks on you. So if you can just get in the habit of removing them, and then definitely, I, I'm a fan of permethrin that you spray on your clothes. This is something you don't put on your skin. This is
Okay.
something that you just put on your clothing. And you can actually buy clothing that's treated with permethrin. Um, but I find it much cheaper if you can get like the spray bottle from Walmart or Amazon, or it's much more affordable. And when you're spraying it, like I'm vertically challenged, I'm 5 foot nothing, and I just put it from my pants on my knees down. Like I don't have to spray all of the pants, but from like the knees down, and I find that to be very effective in keeping ticks off of me. They often talk about tucking your pants into your socks. I know it's not sexy necessarily, but it is effective. Like if you can prevent them from getting to your skin, then that's obviously a very good strategy. Of course, ticks, different species. So the Lone Star tick that we were talking about before, that tick's happy to bite you anywhere it can find skin. The dog tick, those tend to travel north, and so they'll go to your head. So those are the ones you typically find on your scalp and your hair or in your kid's head and such.
Yeah.
So the less access you give them to your skin, the better. Permethrin I find very, very effective. But again, that's something that goes on your clothing, not your skin. And also if you're spraying it on your pants, like I tend to do it out in the garage so that if anybody owns a cat and they like that cat, you don't want the cat to come in contact with it when it's wet because it can be lethal to your cat. Not really, not your dog, but still, I just spray it in the garage, let it dry, and then once it's dry, it's fine, like for your pets and yourself.
I can attest to the duct tape method. Taking a roll of duct tape, going reverse around kind of your boots and up the ankle, and I even go
Yeah.
as far up my shin.
Yeah.
And last summer I went to a 3D archery tournament. It was an outdoors one, and I had some people come up to me and say, "Oh, you look kind of funny. What's going on with the tape?" I'm like, "Well, take a look at him a little closer." And I was about halfway through the tournament at that point, and I bet there were at least 10 or 15 ticks stuck on that tape
Yeah.
at that point in time. And like, oh, I guess that would be kind of a good idea to keep them off of you.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's cheap, right? And it's like, but again, if you can just get in the habit, and then when you get home, certainly give yourself a thorough look. So the quicker you remove them, the better off you are. So again, they have to be attached for a certain period of time in order to even transmit the disease. So the faster you remove them, the better off. And of course, if you can have them not even attach, then that's ideal.
Let's say they are attached, Deb. Is there a certain way that they should be taken out or detached from your skin?
Yeah, please do not use cigarettes or matches or any of that because you're actually going to cause more damage to yourself probably than the tick will. Um, I find that those flathead tweezers, something that I can get very close to my skin. I grab it as close to my skin as possible and pull straight out. Don't do the twisting method because the feeding parts, so we often call it the head, but it's really just mouth parts, that can get stuck in your skin. And so, depending on where that bacteria is within the tick, like sometimes it's stored in the salivary glands and sometimes it's stored in the hind gut. Depending where that bacteria is, if it's in the salivary glands and now it's underneath your skin and you can't remove it, then it could still potentially transmit. So you want to remove as much of it as possible. And so you don't twist it, but you pull straight up.
It's kind of crazy just how much havoc a little tiny tick can wreak on humans and pets, and just kind of crazy, isn't it, Deb? I mean, gosh.
Yeah. And plus they just kind of have that you factor. Like a lot of people just
Yeah,
don't. If you have something caught underneath your skin, it's not usually people aren't psyched about it. But by no means is it any reason not to go outside and enjoy yourself. Like, I mean, there's so much
exactly.
benefit from being outside. I mean, it's even been proven scientifically that how much stress it reduces, how it actually boosts your immune system, and not for like a week or two, but actually, for several months. If you're out for like 3 hours or so, I mean, it really is so beneficial for people to be outside.
I'm right there with you. If anytime we can get out and do some fishing with the family, or for me, I really enjoy hunting, both deer and turkey hunting. We like to go on hikes as a family up where we're at. There's a lot of concrete trails that go through the woods, and so it's really nice and just getting kind of that breath of fresh air, getting outside, you get cooped up in the house, and you just need to get out and enjoy the outdoors.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's free. It's beautiful,
Exactly.
free, and it's waiting for you. So why wouldn't you?
Very good. Well, Deb, hey, if anybody wants information from you or MDC on this, can they go to like your website or find information there?
I think we have some information about ticks. Obviously, DHSS has a lot more information because people tend to be more concerned about effects on humans as opposed to wildlife.
Yeah.
But they could certainly reach out to me as well. They could email me with any questions they may have.
Perfect. And again, yeah, check out also that Missouri tick-borne disease story map. It's on the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services website. You can check that out there. Good resource to have. Deb, thanks for joining us here on the show today. Really appreciate the insight, and maybe we can catch up sometime soon.
Well, I really had a great time. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you very much. Deb Hudman there joining us here on Outdoor Adventures. Just a reminder, this week's episode brought to you by the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services. I'm Brent Barnett with Brownfield Ag News. Have a great weekend, and thanks for joining us.